Are we good? Word. You nervous? Of course you are.
We just get to the point.
You ever been interviewed before?
No, I have not.
Okay. This is just a conversation. You can turn the Barbara Walters voice on off. Just talk regular.
This is my regular voice.
Where we at right now?
I can't change it.
Tell me where we at.
We are sitting in front of my son, Derek's house. Derek was my oldest son, and he passed away in September of 2019.
I thought it was October.
I'm sorry, it was October.
You know,
He had this house for about 10 years, and we decided to keep it. We have made some minor renovations, and it is our intention to rent it.
it looked good. You did a
It
good
has-
job.
It looks very nice. I'm very pleased with it. So I'm anxious to see the tenant that shows up and says, I'd like to live here.
I painted the bathroom.
You did some touch-ups in the bathroom. I wouldn't exactly call that a paint
I
job.
painted the whole bathroom. Thank
Um,
you. I wanted to take it back just a little bit. I wanted to make this about you. I thought it'd be cool to have like a video, kind of like keepsake of your life. You say you've never been interviewed, not like a newspaper or nothing like it. You've been interviewed in a newspaper, all right?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. All right, cool. So this is your first one. This is awesome. I wanted to take it back, way back to when you were a child. You grew up in St. Mary's County.
I grew up in St. Mary's County, Maryland. My earliest years were spent in Maddox, Maryland, where I was born. As a small child of about 4, we moved to Chapticole, Maryland. These towns are very small, population's very small, but we moved in with my great-grandmother, my sister, my mother, and I. And it was a small house, had about 2 rooms. And that's where we stayed, I guess, until I was about 8 or 9 years old. 8 or 9 years old, we moved to Helen, Maryland, another small town. And this time we lived in a trailer. And
How many of y'all?
there were 3 of us.
Okay.
I remember the trailer was so ugly, but that's all we could afford, and that's what we lived in. But I found it to be embarrassing as the school bus came up, and sometimes kids would make fun of the trailer. But that's all we had, so it was home to us. When we left there, we went and stayed in Washington, D.C. for a year with my grandmother.
Okay.
My mother went to New York because people told her she could find more opportunities there.
So what is your grandma doing when y'all are in DC? What does she work?
My grandmother worked for the Library of Congress.
Okay.
She had been there for many years, and she retired from there. But she took us in, so to speak, when my mother went to New York to find a better opportunity.
So that's my great grandma. Is what we're
That would
talking
have been
about.
your great-grandma. Yes.
So y'all moved to New York for better opportunities.
My mother moved to New York because she was told there were better opportunities there. But as she got there, she found out that when she had a job as a sleep-in maid, that was okay because she had a place to stay of her own and so forth, connected to the house that she worked for.
So y'all weren't there with her?
No, we lived in Washington for 1 year.
Okay.
After the year was up, we left and came to New York to be with her.
Okay.
But we couldn't stay in the situation that she was working in, so that's how we ended up moving into Manhattan, into a 1-room kitchenette.
What is a kitchenette?
A big room, they call it a studio or something like
okay.
that, perhaps now.
Okay.
It's a large room, no facilities, just one big room. And the bathroom facilities were actually in the hallway, so you have like a community bathroom in the hallway.
So it's you, Barbara, and Derek?
No, just me, my sister, and mom.
Okay.
We were young, 13, 14 years old at the time.
So when does Derek come along?
Derek was born after I graduated from high school.
Okay. What was he like as a kid?
He was a quiet child, never really caused any trouble. Always liked his comic books. He loved TV. He liked bowling, and he liked to travel. Always went to D.C. in the summer and Maryland, spending time with his father, stepmother, and the family.
Yeah.
And he enjoyed that. Never really hung around, if you will, with a lot of kids, but had friends, and was always very well liked.
So take me back though. When you're in DC, what is school like? Is it like segregation time? Like, what's it like in that regard?
Yes, when I went to school in D.C., we did go to an all-black school.
Okay.
I went to Charles Young Elementary School. for that 1 year. After I left DC and moved to New York, our schools were integrated.
Ah, okay.
Hmm.
Is that weird?
No, I didn't really find it any different. I guess we didn't really look at color. We just went to school with the people that were in the neighborhood.
Uh,
Hmm.
that makes sense. So, all right. So Derek's bowling. Now I know we talk all the time about your time in New York because you were there what
I spent
30,
25 years in New York City altogether.
25 years,
Hmm.
and you talk about we talk about this all the time, the music and going and seeing different acts. When did that come along? When did you start doing that?
The first act I saw was at the Apollo Theater in New York, which was the place to go if you were a star. And we went to see the Motown Review. The Motown Review was maybe 10 acts. Anybody that was important at the time would come and appear at the Apollo Theater. So we enjoyed it. We got to see all of the acts of the day. My most memorable probably would be seeing James Brown in his review, as he as he would come on many occasions, and he would pack the house. To get in, it was $1.50, but when James Brown came, it went up to about $3.50.
So it's all right. Time out. A full show
Yeah.
is $1.50.
At that time, you saw the full Motown review or whoever's review for $1.50.
So it's more than one person.
About 10 people would be on the act. The Motown Review was made up of the prominent stars of Motown.
So would it be a bunch of nobodies and James
No,
Brown?
they would. No, James Brown would be solo.
Okay.
Sorry, he did not come. He was not with Motown.
Okay.
James Brown came as a solo artist, and he had his review with him.
So if the tickets are $1.50 and $3, how much is food free? Like I don't
No,
know.
you bought your food at the concession stand. Like you did.
Food got to be free then if the tickets are only $1.50.
Why are you saying food would be free?
Because nowadays tickets are $100.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, clearly.
We paid $1.50. I do not have a ticket stub to show you, but I'm telling you that's what we paid. And the interesting thing about it was you could stay in there all day long. Once you got in, you could stay there until you felt like leaving.
So who are you going to see these shows with?
My sister,
Ah, okay. So you seen James Brown? Who are some notable people that I would know?
Jackie Wilson,
I don't know who that is.
Stevie Wonder.
I do know who that
As a little boy, Stevie Wonder was 13, 14 years old when I first saw him.
is.
We saw the Marvelettes, we saw Smokey and the Miracles, Junior Walker and the All-Stars. Anybody that had a hit in the African-American community played at the Apollo Theater.
Who did you not see? Was there somebody that you wanted to see?
I never saw the Supremes.
Mm.
I'm not really sure why, but they had come, but I never did see them. The Temptations, of course, I saw. Marvin Gaye, Otis Redding, all of these people.
Are the tickets $1.50 and you can sit anywhere, or is that
You
nosebleeds?
sat wherever you wanted.
That's amazing.
I know you can't connect with it, but I'm telling you how it was. Now, when James Brown came, because he was so popular, the tickets were $3.50.
Take me back. That's what I wish.
You went to the Apollo, you saw the size of the building.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that
didn't
big though.
change. Exactly.
Yeah, no,
It
no.
did not change. Now, when I went, it needed refurbishing. So the curtains weren't in great shape, and someone would have to walk the curtain across after each act because the Travis rod no longer worked.
Did you camp out for the ticket? How did you get tickets?
You bought them when you came to the day of the show.
So you probably had to get there
You
early.
went out and bought your ticket and then got online. The line would wrap around the block when James Brown came.
I'm sure. So, okay, so you're in New York for 25 years, and then you moved to Nashville. Well, no, you have me.
You were born in New York City, right?
That's me.
After your father and I married, we lived in New York for about another year, and then we came to Nashville.
I thought I was 4 when we moved. You switch it up every time. First, you just said 1, then you told me it's 4.
We moved
How-
to Nashville in '84. Okay,
Okay. All right. So I
I
was 2.
believe you were born in '82.
I was.
Okay.
Yes. So that would be 2
So
years.
you were 2. You turned 3 after we got to Nashville.
Why move to Nashville?
We wanted to leave New York and to expose ourselves to a different lifestyle. And I had always wanted to move to the country. I just never made any moves upon myself to do it. But we looked into other cities and chose Nashville.
What other cities?
We looked into, well, we didn't go to any other cities, but we had considered, I think there were some other places considered.
Like,
in the South. Maybe going back to North Carolina, where he was originally from, something like that.
I'm glad we didn't do that. Then.
But we came here to Nashville, and of course, I'm still here.
All right. So, what are you doing professionally? Or was there anything that you wanted to do as a kid? Did you want to grow up to be something?
I didn't really have aspirations as a kid. I just went to school. I knew eventually I'd get out of school, but I had no real plan for the future. I think most of us heard the stories from our parents. You know, you go to school and you get your diploma and then you go to work. I didn't come from a college-educated family.
Yeah.
No one in our school really pushed it. So I went to work. I didn't, and then I told myself I was not college material, which was really bad.
Yeah.
Because if you tell yourself that, then you know it kind of you're defeating yourself before you even give it a try.
Did any of your friends go to college?
Not that I was close with in high school, no.
Uh,
I remember a week after graduation, 3 or 4 of us came out and met at somewhere in New York City downtown, and we just walked the blocks looking for work. At that time, you just walked to different companies and put in an application if they were taking applications to see if they had any jobs. And then also you would look in the newspaper. The newspaper had want ads, and you would check the want ads. On Sunday, they had a lot of want ads, so you would check and circle the ones that you were going to attack and go to the company and see if the job was still available.
Interesting. So you moved to Nashville, or we moved to Nashville. What am I like as a kid? I'm a genius. How'd you know I was a genius? I was about 5 when you figured out I was a genius?
I don't have any indication yet that you're a genius. You were a wild little boy, always looking to get into something. Not really mischievous, but just curious.
Yeah.
Went to school, but I don't think you ever really liked it. You did very well in the elementary years as we went to Park Avenue, which was a small private school. As you went on to junior high and high school, I think the interest sort of waned because you had more interest in working and making money than you did in learning from the textbook. You always had a group of friends, particularly from junior high school on, that really, many of them are still connected with you to this day.
Yeah.
But always had a desire to be something, just didn't see it coming out of extensive training from the textbook.
School was all right. I like math. I was good at math. But other than that, though, like history and I thought it was pointless. I didn't see a point in it. But you still made me go to college, though.
Which I regret simply because you can't make somebody do something they don't want to do. And at the time when you went, the interest wasn't there.
Yeah.
And when you go, you just waste time. You waste your financial aid, you waste money.
Yeah.
But that's not the end all. There are other careers that could be chosen and other ways of earning money other than going and sitting somewhere that you really don't have any interest in.
Yeah. But I understand that. But I feel like your heart was in the right place.
Well, I wanted what was best for you. And I know that in many occupations, you really don't get an opportunity unless you have a piece of paper to show that you put in some extra training other than high school.
Yeah.
And you don't get a chance to even get in the door. It doesn't guarantee you anything, but at least gives you another step up.
Do you remember, you talking about my friends, right? Do you remember, you used to give me the same piece of advice every time I went somewhere. Do you remember what that advice was? Yeah. Right.
Only have 2 people in the car?
No.
Don't drink anything? I don't know.
No. Neither one of them.
Okay.
You gave me the same piece of advice every time I walked outside. You said, watch who you hang. You said, watch your friends.
Oh.
Said the same thing every time. That was smart.
Well, apparently it worked because you've had a good assortment of friends.
Yeah.
I always thought, and I still do, it's important who you hang around with because your name is what's going to carry you on, and people are going to remember it, and they're going to remember what's associated with the name.
Yeah.
So if you do good things, they're going to remember that. If you turn out to be somebody that's not wanted, they're going to remember that.
Yeah. Nah, that was your favorite thing to say. But it worked because I would always think about that when I go out. And I would see people and what they had going on. And I was like, nah, I ain't going to do that. I'm going to chill over here where we just chilling playing video games or whatever. So it worked.
But I remember that when you started driving, I would tell you could only have one person in the car.
I don't remember that.
And of course, that one person was Jay. So Well, I would tell you that because I didn't want a bunch of people packed up in the car, you going down the road, not knowing what you're doing that well and not paying attention. But you never had any problem with your driving except when you got older and thought that you should be the fastest person out on the highway.
Well, I got one, maybe two speeding tickets in my
Because you
life.
got tickets up the yin yang. What are you talking about?
I got stopped up the yin yang.
You had a lot of tickets. You were always getting tickets. You had enough to wallpaper the wall.
I got like two.
No,
That's not a lot.
you did. You were speeding. You even got a ticket coming down your own street.
Oh, I remember that though.
I do too.
So all right, so I went to college, went to Jackson, Tennessee.
You went to Lane for a year,
Yeah,
and that really was probably a disaster. And then you left there and came to Tennessee State for a year, and that
that
didn't
was a
work out.
disaster.
And then you went to
MTS.
MTSU, which got even worse.
And that was
So,
a disaster too.
like I said, it just was not the right time for you to go. You did end up going many years later in Georgia
Yeah.
to finish off the associate's degree,
Yep.
um, which gives you a little bit credibility, but
A little
you
something.
know, yeah.
What do you think when I moved?
You moved at an interesting time.
I moved at the wrong time.
I had no objections to you moving. That was not my call to make. But you had lost your job here. You had also lost the studio that you had because
Yeah.
they decided to go in a different direction with the rental
Yeah.
of that property. So you had no job and you had no studio, which was something you had engaged in for the last few years.
Yeah.
So going to Georgia, I thought I was not certain whether it made a whole lot of sense because the economy there was just as bad as it was here in Nashville.
Yeah.
But you all went and you struggled along with your part-time jobs and your hand in my wallet for many years until you were able to find a full-time job that was sustaining your lifestyle. It was at the point where I didn't want to see the phone ring and your name show up
I
because
already know.
I knew what was coming.
Listen.
But by the same token, I was always willing to help because I thought it was something that was needed. And since I had it, I didn't mind doing it.
Yeah.
But my overall thought was that you eventually, of course, needed to be self-sustaining.
Of course. Yeah, eventually. It just took some time. I remember when what's funny, the turning point of moving, and then we're gonna get back to you, because we talking about me too much. This about you. The turning point moving was when I got in that accident when I got rear-ended. That was the turning point. Because you had already told me you had no more money left. Or that you weren't finna give me no more money. And so when that lease was up, I was prepared I was gonna have to move back home. So that accident that I ended up suing for kept the lights on for the next couple months until I found something stable. Because I couldn't find any real work.
You all just got lucky with your rental because it was hard for tenement houses and so forth to find people to rent. So they were offering all kind of bargains.
Yeah.
And that's how you got an apartment in the first place. Because none of you had any money to really rent one. But they were renting to anybody, I think, that came down the street.
Yeah.
And I'm not certain what you all were doing with your little bit of money. But eventually you had to leave there, if I recall.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
the
Yeah.
first place.
Yeah.
Under suspicious circumstances.
Yeah.
And then you went on down the road and found a place somewhere else, which I was called on to co-sign for.
Yeah, absolutely. Credit wasn't nothing back then.
So I had to put my name on a piece of paper in order for them to get another living place.
Appreciate that.
But then two of the guys fell to the wayside and came back home or what have you.
For sure.
And you and Quan went on and stayed there.
Yeah, we still hanging in there too.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a similarity I feel like that I never really thought about. Y'all moved for greener pastures to New York in hopes of something different or bigger and better. And that's the same reason I moved to Atlanta. I never put that two and two together, did you?
No, it didn't really cross my mind. I guess because we were children when we moved, so we didn't really have any say-so in the matter. But people made my mother think she could get a better opportunity in New York.
Yeah.
Because, you have relatives that move to a place and they come back home and they're putting on a show.
Of course.
And they've rented a car, but you think it's theirs. And so they come and they got a few dollars, wrapped up in singles is a 50 or something on top, buying everybody drinks and showing off when they never really told her the real deal. They had factory work.
Oh, okay.
They're working in the factory. They weren't making any big time money.
Yeah.
But, everybody, oh, so and so coming down from New York. So she came thinking, well, maybe I can go and get a job. So that's how she ended up in New York. And I think she did work in the factory for a short period of time, but it wasn't anything long standing.
Everything happened for a reason. It all worked out. What was your motivation for going back to school?
When I lived in New York, I seemed to have been doing okay without a degree from college, so I never gave it any thought. When I came to Nashville and tried to find a job, I noticed that even though I was qualified, having 16 years in a very large bank, I was being looked over for others. And one of the reasons was I didn't have a college degree, so I knew it. And I went to work at Meharry when Dr. Magruder had come and told me about a position there. He was a customer of mine at the bank.
Yeah.
You very well know him.
You
But he told me about a spot that was available at Hubbard Hospital. And I figured, So I went. Initially, I did not follow up on it, but eventually I did. About 2 weeks later, he called me again. So I went to Hubbard Hospital to see what the position was. And it was in the medical affairs office.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting work. I really was glad that I had taken the opportunity to do that work. But they would tell me about opportunities that might exist if I had a degree. Not forcing me to go get one, but just letting me know of what was available. So eventually I sent it to TSU and got an application and filled it out. And as they say, the rest is history. But the light that really made me pursue the education was I was in a meeting once, and I think about 8 or 10 people were around the hospital table, administrative people.
Yep.
And I just looked around the table, and I realized that everybody at that table had a degree except for me.
Mm.
And I looked at one person in particular, and I thought, you know what? If they have a degree, this might be something I can do. I did.
If they can do it, I can do it.
I did.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about going to college, had no idea.
Yeah.
So I got the application packet and I sent it in, and as they say, the rest is history. I spent 9 years at Tennessee State on a part-time basis.
Yeah. Doing it
Working, going to
nighttime.
school, night, day, whenever the opportunity exists.
Yeah.
And I ended up graduating from there with honors. And then about 8 years later,
Oh, you said graduate with honors. You try to slide that in.
I did.
I know that's right.
And then about 8 years later, I went to Cumberland University and got a master's.
So when you gonna get that doctorate?
I think about it from time to time.
You need to go ahead and do it. You ain't got no time on your hands.
I
Calling
do think
me.
about it. It's money. It's a very expensive pursuit. And I would be doing it just for myself. Well, really, when you go to school, you do it for your own self-enrichment. Nothing is guaranteed. You don't know if you're going to get a job or if you're just going to take the diploma and hang it up on the wall.
Yep.
In my case, I'm already way past retirement. So,
Basically.
but I work because I want to, not because I have to. I just like to do it.
So when you do eventually stop working and you go ahead and call it a day, what is your post-retirement plan? What you got? What you gonna do? You gonna see the world? What you gonna do?
I would love to travel. I've not had an opportunity to travel. Actually, I guess I could be traveling now.
Yes, you could.
Prior to the virus and whatnot, but I didn't do that. But I would eventually like to explore some of the world here in the United States as well as in other countries.
That's what you need to. Up and tell you you got the passport ready?
I have a passport. I just need to get some stamps in it.
And let's go where we going.
We can go.
We gonna find you a dude. Find you do it on ChristianMingle.com or something like that. We'll find you a man. Y'all gonna travel the world. I'm just saying.
I'm not interested in Christian Mingle or
Single.
anybody else, but it would be nice to have somebody to do the traveling with. Yes.
All right. What? Before I ask this, I'm gonna preface it by saying one thing I would do differently if I could go back. I would go to school out of state for college. I would have gassed up 2 or 3 of my buddies, and we would have went to Florida State just to get out of my comfort zone early, because that was a big deal for me, getting out of my comfort zone when I moved to Atlanta, and I feel like it did a lot of good. Anything you would do differently if you could go back?
If I could go back, I would wish that I had the courage and the wherewithal to have gone to school when I came out of high school. If I had improved myself educationally many, many years ago, I could have achieved much more early on as opposed to coming out of college at 50.
Yeah.
There's a lot of time that had been I wouldn't say it was wasted, but you can't go back and recapture those years.
Yeah.
So people go to school at all ages, and I'm glad I went when I did. But on the other hand, when I think of what I could have done,
Yeah.
I look at people who did it early on, and many of them are successful. Some of them aren't.
Sure.
I mean, it's not a guarantee on anything.
Yeah.
I just often wonder why we, as a family, my older generation people and so forth, never saw the need to push us in that direction. But regardless of who's pushing you, at some point you have to take the responsibility for yourself
Absolutely.
and do it. So if
You still need some guidance though. Some people just
I
need a
think-
little roadmap.
no one ever told me I should go to college, except for some people I worked with when I was in high school. I worked on the co-op program,
Mhm.
and they would say, "Well, what are you thinking?" And we went to work.
I'm glad you pushed me. I'm glad you made me. I say that.
The battle cry was go get a job and help your mother. So that's what we did. My sister, when she worked in Walgreens, not Walgreens,
Walmart.
a similar store. No,
Ah.
we didn't have those then. We had lampstands.
Y'all didn't have Walmart back when you
Not in our city.
1800.
Not in New York. No, they didn't. So she went to Walgreens. She went to Lampston's and worked. She eventually went on to get her degree, but she did not
Okay.
have it as a young person either. So we went to work.
Well, I think things turned out all right. You know, remodel the house. Look at you. You can add that to your
This
bill.
was an interesting situation. Obviously, I wish I didn't have to do it.
Obviously.
I'd rather have Derek still with us. But based on the fact that he's not, he just wanted to hold on to this and keep it in the family and see how it would turn out. So I'm pleased with it so far. We just have to finish off some minor things
Yeah.
and put it on the market for rental.
A little bit of work left, but I think the majority of it is done. Looks good. Look at you. Add contractor to you.
So
List
I
of
may
talents.
look to find some other property and turn that
I
around.
know that's right. You're gonna turn into a mogul.
Yeah, I'm a mogul already. That combined with my stock market activity, I'll be ready to roll.
This was fun.
It has been.
You so
Out of
awkward.
all this, you probably get about 2 minutes worth of feed. Most of it's probably going to fall on the cutting room's wall.
Just say bye to the people.
Is that the end of our conversation today?
It is.
Oh, it has been fun. It was nice meeting you, young man. And I'm glad I had this opportunity for this discussion.
Absolutely. I'll see you at home in 5 minutes.
I'm going to drive on back there when I move.